Hello, welcome back to the Daily Bible Summary, where the goal is to renew your mind as we read a new chapter every day and ask the question, what can I learn? Today's episode is entitled Joseph Interpreting Dreams. If you've read chapter 40, and I hope you have, let's go ahead and get started. Moses continues Joseph's narrative since he will play such a large role in God's plan to save Israel and protect the descendants of Abraham from harm. But Joseph is in no position to do that yet. We see him in prison after being falsely accused of assaulting Mrs. Potiphar. Now, when the text says, sometime after this, it indicates that a period of months has passed, possibly years, before anything happens that would even remotely help Joseph get out of prison. But eventually, there is some problem in Pharaoh's court, and that lands both the chief baker and the cupbearer into prison. Now, many speculate that there was some assassination attempt and that these two men were implicated. So while the investigation into that attempt happens, they get to cool their boots in jail, or maybe their sandals. Both of these men then have dreams while they're in prison. Now, they're vivid dreams, but neither know what they meant, and this is what distressed them. Joseph offers to interpret the dreams if they will share them, but he does add this caveat, preface it with this one statement. Do not interpretations belong to God? And when Joseph hears the dream, he gives each man the interpretation for his dream. First, to the cupbearer, he says, you're going back to work for Pharaoh in 3 days. And to the baker, he says, you're going to be hanged in 3 days. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Now we see that Joseph was confident enough in his interpretation because he asked the cupbearer to remember him when the cupbearer gets out of jail. And he wants him to put in a good word to Pharaoh to get him out of prison too. Joseph explains that he was kidnapped from his homeland and has done nothing to deserve prison. However, as the chapter ends, we see that the cupbearer totally forgets about Joseph. Once he was free, he put that whole experience in his rearview mirror and he didn't want to look back. So what can we learn from this chapter? First, faithful people rely on God and give him the credit. The mechanics of how Joseph interpreted the dreams are not recorded by Moses, but even before Joseph heard the dream, he credits God for the understanding. He says, do not interpretations belong to God? There will be no chance that Joseph gets the glory for this, nor that he's even seeking glory for it. God deserves to be honored, and by those who serve him, he will be honored. This reminds us of Daniel, who centuries later would interpret dreams. When King Nebuchadnezzar asked Daniel about a dream, Daniel says, no wise man can show the king the mystery that the king has asked, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. Both Joseph and Daniel understood that insight and wisdom come from God, not from themselves. Their humility deserves to be emulated. So here's a thought question for you. When God blesses you with success or insight, do you give him credit or do you take it for yourself? Second, we should always be doing our best, even in bad situations. Sure, we are beginning to see God's plan unfold, and yes, we do know how the story ends. But Joseph does not. Joseph is living this, but he still continues to be a faithful, trustworthy worker, even in a very bad situation. Does he want to get out of jail? Absolutely, positively, yes. He even asked help from the cupbearer to help get him out. But while he is in prison, he is still being a faithful God follower in his actions. Colossians 3 verses 23 and 24 say, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. Joseph was not serving Pharaoh's cupbearer or Pharaoh's baker. He was serving the Lord. And so should we, no matter what our circumstances are. So another thought question for you. Are you serving faithfully even when your circumstances are unfair? Do you work as if you're serving the Lord and not just people? Tomorrow, Lord willing, we will see Joseph being elevated as God will use him to interpret Pharaoh's dream. The results are astonishing as Joseph goes from prison to ruler in just a moment. As we continue to read God's word each day, we will continue to renew our minds.